Hey guys, today I'm going to show you a bunch of meals that I've been doing for the past couple of days. Today I'm going to make a kale salad with baked chicken on top. Here I'm chopping some eggplant, but it was bad, so I ended up not using it. But I used kale, cilantro, some purple cabbage, and white onion. And I'm just going to saute all of that up into a pan with some olive oil and some seasonings. So I used some salt, not too much. I don't have a salt shaker anymore because it broke, so I'm using my hands. Some black pepper and turmeric. And I lost the footage of the baked chicken, but I put sliced baked chicken on top of this with some cherry tomatoes. So the next day I'm making, again, baked chicken thighs with salt and pepper. And I'm making some rice now. This rice is going to be for me. My husband and my daughter are going to have the chicken with mashed potatoes and peas. And then I'm going to have holy basil stir fry with rice. And this is me checking the chicken. I keep checking my chicken a lot. I think I do it too much, but I'm just terrified of pink chicken. So this is me turning it over and putting it back in for another 20 minutes. Now I'm making the mashed potatoes. I'm just doing the instant mashed potatoes, and I think I'm doing 2 servings for this. And I'm just following the directions on the box. Some water, butter, salt, letting that boil. My daughter loves to play in the kitchen, and here I'm steaming some peas. And does any other mother do this? But whenever my child just kind of cries or whines, I just give her food and she's like happy.
Some more banana?
Now I'm adding in the instant mashed potatoes. Gonna stir that around. And while I was mixing this, the timer went off for the chicken. I think it's been a total of 40 minutes in the oven now at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And at this point, I had already turned the oven off, but the chicken still looked a little bit pink near the bones, so I put it back into the oven and just let it continue to cook with the residual heat that's left over in the oven. And this is my daughter watching me season the mashed potatoes with some black pepper and garlic powder. And now I'm just putting it onto my husband's plate. And my daughter just watching my every move. Here's the steamed peas that I made. I steamed it for 6 minutes in the microwave.
What are you doing?
And now I'm making my daughter's portion. So the chicken still looked a little bit pink near the bone, so I put it back in and started making my holy basil stir fry. So now I'm picking the biggest leaves off this basil plant. For holy basil stir fry, obviously we're supposed to use holy basil, but those are really hard to find in my area, so I'm just using regular basil. And here I'm doing some sunny side eggs. And then I'm gonna put those eggs on top of rice. And to get started on my holy basil stir fry, I'm stir frying some ground beef with some minced garlic and about 4 to 5 of these dried chilies. And I like to break my chilies in half to get those seeds in there because that's where the spice is. And now I'm adding this holy basil stir fry seasoning packet that my mom brought me from Thailand when she visited. And I'm adding a tablespoon of water to that and just mixing that around. And then I'm adding some oyster sauce. I think I put a little bit too much, but it still tasted good. And then since I realized that I probably added too much oyster sauce and it might be too salty, I added some sugar in. And now I'm adding the basil leaves, and within like a minute it all wilted, which is exactly what we want. And there is my holy basil stir fry with sunny side eggs on top of rice. And then finally the chicken was done, so that's my husband's plate, and now I'm shredding some chicken for my daughter.
Bread, mayonnaise, avocado, ham, lettuce, mayonnaise. I'm gonna have dumplings too.
So today I just got back from work and I was so hungry and I needed something quick, so I just made this sandwich with not ham but turkey, and I'm also going to make some pot stickers. And this is me dropping 5 and debating if I want more, which I did. And I think the instructions said to pan fry them for 2 minutes on high and then add water and steam them for 2 minutes on medium, but I ended up burning them. It usually works out, but today it didn't, but oh well. So what happened was the bottom was all burnt and crispy, but the insides, like the pork, was still pretty cold. So because that didn't really fill me up much, I'm also having this spicy, I think it's called fire yakisoba, but this is 99 cents and it tastes just like the Shin Ramyun. So I'm definitely going to be buying this rather than the Shin Ramen, because the Shin Ramen is almost $2 a packet and you get the same amount in this one and it's the same taste, so it's like a dupe. Although it is twice the spice, so that's a warning to ya. On to day 3, I'm just whipping up a quick lunch for my daughter. I'm going to make stir-fry hot dog. So I'm stir-frying onions, and this is 1 hot dog chopped up. And I'm adding a little bit of ketchup, soy sauce, and sesame oil. I'm just going to stir that around. And I'm mixing in some leftover beans and rice. And while I let that cool down, I'm going to make some chocolate chip banana muffins. It's 200 grams of flour, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And here I'm adding 150 grams of sugar. The recipe also calls for 200 grams of mashed bananas, which is about 2 bananas. Here I'm using frozen bananas that I thawed, and now I'm mashing it up. And then I'm adding 2 eggs. These are the jumbo size, and I'm just mixing those together with 125 milligrams of milk. And this isn't part of the recipe, but I'm adding a cap of vanilla. And now I'm mixing in 80 grams of melted butter and just mixing all the dry and wet ingredients together. And I usually don't do this, but I just wanted to try something new today. I added about 3 teaspoons of flaxseed, and I just kind of eyeball how much chocolate chips I want in there. And then at this point, I preheated my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and now I'm putting in these cupcake liners into the muffin trays. So I put about almost 1 scoop into each cupcake liner, and this recipe made about 14 cupcakes, or not cupcakes, muffins, and 2 of the muffins were like extra large. And then the original recipe said to cook it for 20 minutes, but the first time I made these, 20 minutes was not enough. So I do 20 minutes and then I check them and then do 10 minutes and then 5 minutes. But today, I think because of the flaxseed, it cooked a lot faster. So this took 25 minutes in the oven and they were done. So for dinner, the very last recipe I'm showing you today, I'm going to make Hainanese chicken and rice with broccoli on the side. So right now I'm just making the broth. I'm slicing some ginger and putting it into the Dutch oven. Here is some frozen lemongrass. You would usually bruise them with like just pounding them, but because they're frozen, I just made some slivers in them and chucking them into the pot. And here I'm trying to use up all my cilantro as they were starting to go bad. So I rinsed them, chopped them up, and put them into the pot as well. And now I'm going to trim off the skin off these bone-in chicken thighs. And then I'm going to save that skin for later. And then for this particular chicken, I just couldn't get the skin off, so I just put it in the pot as is. And I filled that pot up with water and bring it to a boil. And now I'm just cutting the chicken skin, and I'm going to pan fry that with a little bit of olive oil. And now I'm adding some garlic to the chicken skin and some garlic to the broth. And now I'm starting my rice in advance. I'm just eyeballing it because I can't find my measuring cup. And now I'm going to start preparing the broccoli. Here I'm just chopping off the florets, I think that's what they're called, and I'm going to save the stems for some dish that I'll do some other time. Now I'm going to skim off all those bubbles and foam that has come to the top of the pot. I don't know why, but that's just what my mom does, so I'm just copying her. So this is how I'm putting chicken broth into the rice cooker. So with my pointer finger touching the very top layer of the rice, I'm going to fill up broth up until that knuckle line. So I'm just going to place my finger in there before I put the broth in, and it lined up with the number 3 in the rice pot. So now I'm going to scoop up the broth and put it in there. If I was cooking regular rice with regular water, I would just stick my finger into the water, but because the broth is hot, I stuck my finger in there beforehand. And then now I'm pouring in that chicken fat or chicken juice, and that's where all the flavor is going to come in. If you're doing this, make sure to wear mittens when you lift up the pot, because now it was just really hot. So now that the chicken is done, I'm going to start steaming some broccoli. Okay, so now moving on to the sauce, I'm going to pound some dried chilies with garlic, ginger, and this is black bean paste that I'm adding, and soy sauce. I would also recommend adding in maybe a little bit of the chicken broth. That would make this sauce a lot better too. So I feel like the broccoli took a really long time to cook. I steamed this for about 20 to 25 minutes and it just wasn't as soft as I would like it to be. Really, I just wanted it to be soft enough for my daughter to eat. She's 15 months old and she has 5 teeth. So here I am just mincing it up to make it easier for her. So I'm just adding that to her bowl of rice. Mix that in. I also added a little bit of soup and some of the minced chicken. I also ended up adding a little drizzle of soy sauce for a little bit more flavor. And my daughter really loved this dinner. She kept coming back for more. And this is my husband's plate. He just had some soy sauce with it. And then this is mine. I'm just adding some soup. And I'm going to drizzle on the sauce that I made. Thanks for watching.